There was a ghost. There was a ghost, yep. Yep, there was a ghost. He's going to tell you more.
Where was the ghost?
That's probably
Oh,
important.
hang on. Which time? Because we've got so many stories about ghosts, so we're going to begin with this one.
True, I shouldn't just say there was a ghost. Okay.
At a campground.
Yes,
Okay.
it was a campground. I believe we were at Bundjalung National Park.
Yeah. Which is in northern New South Wales in Australia.
We were staying in a cabin for 2 nights, and we're going to tell you a little bit of information about the experience, and then you might want to just think twice if you're planning a holiday at Bundjalung National Park in the cabins there.
Well, it might be more exciting for them.
Maybe.
Just don't wear crutches. Don't have a broken leg.
Don't wear crutches. Okay.
All right. So backstory. Here we go. What happened to your leg?
Well, I was on crutches.
All right. So Claire was on crutches, and so it was a little bit kind of, let's get out of the house. Let's go do something. We can't really camp. We can't really rough it too much. So we ended up hiring a cabin, basically an old cabin in a campground. There were new cabins there too, but for whatever reason, we decided to choose the original old cabin in this campground.
Did we?
Yes, well, I did. I don't know about you. I thought it might be something different.
That's weird. I would have chose the nice new one.
Yeah, anyway. But
Oh, no. I remember why we chose this one. Because I was on crutches,
yes.
it had a ramp. And
Yeah.
I needed a ramp to make it easier.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So just so you know, Bundjalung National Park it's a national park, but it's on the water. So it's pretty. If you want somewhere to go with ghosts and trees and pretty beachside, it's a nice option. Please continue.
All right. So we get into this place, this cabin, all right? And it's been refurbished. It's got a little kitchen and all that kind of stuff. So when you walk in, the way they did it is you walk in and you get into this lounge kind of area, and then just to the side of that is the bathroom and shower kind of thing. And on the other side of that, if you keep going, is the lounge room. The bedroom. So there's a bedroom with, I think it was one queen bed or one single bed on one side and a double, like a bunk bed on the other side of that same room.
Was there a bunk bed?
Yeah, because I was on top. I ended up on top of a bunk bed, and you were down the bottom on the floor on the other side.
I'm not convinced there was a bunk bed. It was a few years ago. There were definitely 2 beds in the room, though. Anyway.
All right. Maybe it wasn't a bunk bed, but I do remember looking down on you for some reason.
Because I was on crutches?
Well, from the other bed, I remember looking down. I'm pretty sure it was a bunk bed, dude.
I think you were just standing up, looking down.
No, I'm pretty sure it was a bunk bed on the other side.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree.
So I remember, I was near the ceiling and I was looking down.
Because you float up onto the ceiling in your dreams.
No, this is... Anyway. With that detail messed up, but the reality is I was up higher and I could see Claire on the bed next to me, but lower on the other side of the room. Not a huge room, of course, but she was down there. Anyway, we get into this place and immediately I felt that there was someone watching us.
I thought it had a nice vibe.
Yeah, and I didn't want to say anything to Claire because we've been through experiences before where shit happens, and I've learnt not to say anything because I'd rather that she didn't know until maybe later, and hopefully nothing will happen. However, in this particular time, so I was in the lounge room kind of area where you walk in, and Claire was going to have a shower, and I was sitting on the lounge, and I just knew, I could feel this energy. And when Claire walked into the shower, I literally looked up to the corner of the space that I was in, and even though I couldn't see anything, I certainly felt the presence. And I looked up in this corner and I actually said, I can see you, don't go in there, leave her alone. And
I had no idea.
Claire didn't have any idea.
I just hobbled in on my crutches into the bathroom.
Yeah, and then a short time later, I hear screaming in the bathroom. Why?
Well, it sounds like nothing, but the water was just going weird. Like I had it on this beautiful temperature, and then it went cold. And then beautiful temperature, and then it went cold. I know that kind of sounds like it happens a lot, but it was just weird that it kept going in and out. It just didn't.
But
the temperature.
Yeah, but when I heard you, I knew like the energy had transferred into the bathroom, and there was something in there.
The energy was adjusting the water somehow. It was going, cold water for Claire.
Anyway, to get a bit personal, I didn't feel comfortable getting personal, which sounds really strange, but
He said, get away.
I actually pushed her.
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
I know, it sounds weird, but it's like there's like having this thing watching our every move, like, and I felt the energy in there was not great. Anyway.
Meanwhile, I'm confused.
Yeah, meanwhile, I didn't say anything, of course, and I just, try to keep it as light as I could. But when we were outside the cabin, it was fine. Like, we walked down to the rocks, to the ocean bit,
I hobbled as far as I could. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty over there. I'll stay here.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. It was still a nice place and everything. It's just inside. And you would think, like, it's not like a huge place. You'd think, oh, it's no big deal. It's just a little cabin thing. Wow, it doesn't matter if you're in a closet. You can have the weirdest energy that sticks with you, Anyway, let's just skip forward a little bit. So I said to Claire, are you sure you don't want me to be in the same bed as you?
Hang on, we're fast forwarded to nighttime now.
Yes.
And let me just set the scene a little bit. So we're going to bed and there's this big bed. I guess I had the big bed. I was on crutches, people.
And lower to the ground.
And lower to the ground.
Because I was on the bunk at the top, on the other
Which
side.
may or may not have existed. But if you've ever been on crutches, you might know you kind of need a lot of more space in bed. You don't want to be like knocked over by... Anyway, it was comfortable for the legs. And he's like, okay, you can have the bed. And he had the bunk bed, or whatever bed was there. I don't think it was a bunk. Anyway, 2 different beds. I'm like, yeah, I'm great in this bed. Thank you for offering that. You're amazing. I think I'll sleep better.
So, and that room was pitch black, by the way. You closed the door and everything was black, like really dark. So, like too dark for where it was, I thought. But anyway. And anyway, I'm lying there and I was very uncomfortable. I could feel this presence and everything's dark and trying to sleep. And
You hadn't turned the light out yet.
I hadn't turned the light out?
No, this is what happened. So I was in bed, ready to go to sleep. But Goran was the one who was going to turn the light off because he was able-bodied at that time. You remember?
Yeah.
So he was at the light switch and you obviously felt that there was a weird energy. And you said, I'm going to turn the light out now. And I'm like, okay. Thinking that's great. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, no, you sure you're ready? I'm like, yeah, just turn the light out. Anyway, he's like, okay. So we turned the light out. And then I reckon it was almost instantly. It was within just a few seconds. I'm like, oh my God, turn the light on.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yes, I just feel this... Someone stroking my hair. I know it's not Goran, but yeah, I just instantly, when the light was turned out, someone is stroking my hair. I'm like, turn it on. And at this point, I had no idea that Goran was seeing anything, feeling anything. I'm just like, this is creepy. Let's turn the light on. I don't know what's going on.
And speaking about turning the light on and pausing, we might pause because there's people coming. So there you go. All right, so at that point, what happened?
Well, you turned the light back on.
I did.
Thank you. But you still didn't tell me what was happening.
No, and
I think I just said it felt like something was touching my head. And you must have been like,
I think it was more than that, because I think you said like later, like, yeah, this went on, and then the lights were out, whatever, and then you said, oh, but I feel someone touching my legs as well. Do you remember that?
vaguely, it was a few years ago.
Or maybe that was the second night.
There was a weird dream.
Oh, yeah, you had that dream thing too, didn't you? All right, so let's...
I definitely felt the hair.
All right, so you can imagine the first night's like that. I didn't sleep very well. She probably didn't sleep very well. You probably did? I don't know, I can't remember.
I don't remember.
Anyway, I was on watch.
Thank you.
Anyway, so next day, yeah, like usual stuff, like still felt the energy, all that sort of crap.
Still went down to the beach and did stuff and...
Yeah. So what happened the second night though? Oh, and what I didn't tell Claire was that I had started writing. So I was writing down stuff as things were happening. So
he has plenty of time to do this because he likes to get up at like 4 a.m. or something. Not my favourite time to get up. So he always has time before I'm up to do whatever. And I think that was your writing time.
It's not like I like to get up at 4 a.m. It just seems to be...
But you do.
The time that my writing kicks in sometimes, or...
That's when he was writing. That's when he started to take notes that I had no idea about.
Yeah. Anyway. So I'd started writing all this stuff down, but then things kept on happening, so I kept jotting things down because I wanted to actually test it in a way to see if it correlated with what Claire was feeling as well. And so the second night, what happened was really interesting because the same kind of stuff, freaked out. I think you're still feeling whatever.
Weird.
And
he's like, ew.
So as time went on, I could see that she was getting more uncomfortable. And I didn't want to tell her why. But yeah, things were definitely stepping up. So this is where my kind of, I don't know if you call it out of body or surreal dreams or whatever you want to call it, but I have this thing where I often sleep and I actually get up thinking that I really got up, but it's actually a part of me that's out of my body, I guess. Anyway, and what happened?
In a dream state.
In a dream state, yeah.
Sleeping horizontal on the bed.
Yeah.
Everything else goes elsewhere for him.
So I wake up from the bunk bed, because it was a bunk bed, I'm sure it was. Anyway, I wake up and I look down towards the bedroom door and I see it's open and I can see a silhouette of this person who has a slim build, much like what Claire has, but it was like shadowy, and I was just like, whoa. And I remember saying, Claire, you're walking without crutches. Oh my gosh, are you okay? And I was like so surprised. And so I hopped down and this person didn't turn around, it kept walking. And then as I got closer into the other room, there was more light and the person turned around and it was a man, and I'm talking about like a 20-year-old perhaps man, slim build, and he just stared at me and I'm like I was like, you're the one. Like I knew instantly what was going on. I knew that was what I had been feeling and what, was present the whole time. So I picked up my pace behind him. He turned around and went into the other room, and the other room had changed. So it was like where we had the entrance door, there was no door there. It was just a wall. So there was no bathroom or anything. And it was just a little tiny, like the wall had come around where the kitchen area is. It had actually come right around and it looked dated, like it was an older kind of building. And I knew I was in the same space, but the structure of the place was very different. Anyway, he went out of this kind of like a normal door, like a little door, and it led straight outside. And I saw him walking through the campground towards the ocean.
Through, you said, where we knew the kitchen to be.
Yeah.
That was no longer a kitchen. There was like a door there. It was like a...
Yeah, like it was a wall and a door.
Yeah, for us it was solid, just kitchen, but you saw a door out into everything else.
Because in that area there was... that's where the bathroom was, kind of just off the side of that as well, like in the modern kind of setting. Anyway, but that kind of at first puzzled me, but I guess my focus was on him. And I remember screaming at him like, you know, don't fucking come back, you know, all this sort of stuff. And the next thing that happened, it's like I couldn't see him in the distance, and I turn around and he's right there behind me. And he's pretty much saying, well, I can do whatever I want. I'm in spirit form, so fuck you. So that's when I woke up. I literally woke up.
But you chased him through the campground.
No, he ran out into the campground. Or he didn't actually run, he just walked very briskly. Like he just managed to get very far, like without kind of much effort, if that makes sense. But I didn't actually step out of the doorway, like, and
in the dream.
Yeah, and it actually had kind of like these little unstable kind of looking steps going down, like just about 3 or 4 steps.
Like oldie.
Yeah,
oldie steps.
like wooden kind of. But that's where I stopped. But then when I turned around, he was right in there again, and he's pretty much saying he can do whatever he wants. Anyway, I'll let you take over from there. So,
well, that was the day that we were leaving.
Yeah, the next morning. That morning. Yeah.
Which was fine for me. So we packed up, and he still hadn't said anything to me. Put everything in the car. I should say he put everything in the car. I couldn't carry much. Crutches. Hello. And you were the person, because you were able-bodied, who took the keys back.
Yes, to the reception.
To the reception when we were checking out. And you had a very interesting conversation. I was just sitting in the car waiting while he was going to return the keys to know what was going on. What did you discover?
So I thought, well, you know what, I've come this far. Like, I've had the experience, which I've had other experiences. I've written things down.
Sorry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What did you say?
Yeah. I was just saying, and you continue to make notes.
Yeah. So it's like, well, I either find out now or I don't find out at all. And then I was going to get, you know, in the car, I was going to mention it on our drive. Hey, Claire, by the way, did you experience, does this seem right to you?
So what happened in reception?
So at the reception, I just said, look, I don't know if anyone's ever said anything before, but I know it sounds weird, but is there an energy in that room? Like, has anyone ever spoke about ghosts or whatnot? And she's like, oh, I don't think so. And then I explained what I saw in the way of the layout of that cabin. I said, oh, yeah, because that was the original, like, cabin, basically, and they refurbished it. And yes, it's exactly how I described it, is what the original setup was. So...
And what was that original room used for? It was like a meeting room for all the...
Yeah, it was some kind of fishing meeting room or...
No, it was like something... station masters or...
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but it had some kind of significance to the people doing some sort of job in that area.
It was a very male-dominated job, and that was where they all kind of, like, let's say, hung out or shared their food in that room.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because the vibe I got from the dude that I saw, I know it sounds a bit weird, but he had like a 70s kind of vibe, if that makes sense. So maybe the attitude of the 70s as well, I don't know. You know, the disrespect maybe towards, you know, women. And that's the other thing too that I felt, and I knew straight away, like, because Claire was on crutches, I think that her energy was vulnerable, and I think that's what attracted that kind of thing as well. Would you feel that? Did you think?
I don't know if I feel it, but it makes sense. Like, I just wasn't as strong
Yeah.
in many ways.
Yeah.
I'd been on crutches for a while, so I had a lot that I was processing physically and emotionally. So I would agree.
Yeah. Okay, so I get in the car and we drive off, and then what happened? You can finish this off now.
I don't remember the exact order in which this happened, but I'm going to say first, just before he drove away, he handed me this bunch of papers. And he's like, you should just read this. I didn't want to give it to you before, but just read this. This will kind of explain things. I'm like, what? Okay. And then I'm reading it step by step going, oh, shit, oh, what? Oh, I'm like kind of freaking out going, oh my God, oh, this is why I felt this. This is why that happened in the shower. And like all these epiphanies and moments of awkward and discomfort explained in this letter. Not his letter, but all these notes that he had written down over the past couple of days that I had no idea about. And then I think I start just talking about it, and then you jump in and tell me what the reception people said. And I'm like, oh my God, there's another layer of confirmation. It's just not just another weird thing that he's experienced. I know he's connected to things, but to have kind of, I'm going to say, proof from someone else saying, well, yeah, this happened in this room, it kind of like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So I was very pleased that he didn't tell me throughout the experience what was going on, because I would have been more creeped out.
And it's interesting too, because it lingered, that feeling. When we got home, there was still that, I remember like just trying to shake this shit off. Like,
yeah, I may have got out a sage stick, I don't remember. I would have done something to help clear the energy.
But it's like, it lingered.
It did.
And I've never felt that before.
It was very heavy. But you went back there.
Yes, I went camping there, yep.
Maybe
with a friend.
Maybe a year later or something. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going back there.
Okay, yeah, I know where you're going. And I could have sworn I saw in the dead of night, like out of my tent, because I went to pee outside. But yeah, that I figure walking from that area and
From that
heading
cabin.
from that cabin, and walking towards the rocks, like the ocean. So, and again, it was almost like when I saw it the first time from behind, it was just like this movement that was, it's not a natural kind of slow progression movement. It was actually quite fast, but not really defined, like as in steps. But yeah, I certainly felt it and I saw it again, but obviously not to the degree that I had earlier with Claire. So
The person you were camping with didn't see or feel anything either.
oh no,
He's very
they're very
alpha.
when you have a whole.
I don't know if that exists, kind of thing. So, and he wasn't.
Oh no, he's very open to it, but he you know, after drinking a litre of scotch and some beers, I don't think he was capable of comprehending what was real and what wasn't anyway.
Fair call. We won't mention your name.
Anyway, fantastic guy though.
Yeah.
No judgment, of course. But that was just one of our experiences, and yeah, we're going to share some more on this channel. So I hope you subscribe.
Serbia.
And yeah,
We'll tell you about that another time.
yeah. So, but it gives you an idea that, you know, these things happen. We don't really fully understand why or to what context it's even important.
And some of us are more aware of it than others.
Yeah. But even if you don't see things, you can still feel things, and you certainly know that that stuff's there. And it doesn't mean that it is there or it isn't there, but when you've got someone else validating what's actually been going on, like, you know, like the park people, like the reception people or whatever, then it kind of helps a little bit to put all the pieces together.
Make you feel like you're not so crazy.
Yeah. So if you're into all the ghost stuff, aliens, NDEs, HD design, whatever it is, stay tuned, and would love to have your feedback. Did you have any ghost stories? We'd like to know. See what other people think. You know, like they might shed some light on that sort of stuff too in the comments. So you never know.
See you soon.
Bye. Thanks for listening.